And Janet's going to talk about the joint enterprise and the way that's going to present. Thank you.
I'm Jordan Cunliffe's mum, and there's a lot of people here. I'm Jordan Cunliffe's mum, and I know that a lot of people here today already know about me and Jordan's malicious conviction. He was blind at age 15 when he was charged with the murder of Gary Newlove. He knew, and so did I, that he had not murdered anyone, and the evidence, even at the early stages in the police station, pointed to who had killed Gary Newlove, particularly as the person that did the crime had confessed to his mother and then to his co-defendants. So we went to trial believing that was all we needed to do, convince the jury that Jordan was not the perpetrator of this crime, and to convince them that with his severe eye condition, it meant that he was unable to give evidence against the perpetrator due to him not being able to see, not because he was protecting someone, but because he could not see. Little did we know that none of that mattered. The prosecution knew Jordan had not taken part in any violence. They knew he could not see. All they wanted to do was convince the jury that Jordan knew the perpetrator, and because of that should have had the foresight to have known he would have kicked a man once in the neck and killed him, even if the boy who landed the kick did not know this himself. All they wanted to prove was that he was close by when a spontaneous outburst of violence happened, an attack that was proven to have lasted just a few seconds. He was called a liar when he said he could not see. The judge allowed this, even though he has a valid medical condition, proving he was telling the truth. In fact, 2 weeks after he was wrongly convicted to a life sentence, he was allowed to have the transplant surgery in one of his eyes, something they would not allow him to do before the trial. I think that was probably because if he had had the surgery before the trial, the prosecution could not have called him a liar when he said that he was unable to see due to his keratoconus, which he had in both eyes. If he hadn't been able to call him a liar, he could never have gained a conviction. So whatever possesses a man, in my opinion, to go to such lengths to convict a blind child of a crime he knows he did not even see occur, let alone commit. What kind of a law would make it possible for someone to do this? Joint enterprise. But Jordan was not part of a joint enterprise. He committed no crime, and his blindness proves he had no knowledge of it happening. Some people may think that because Jordan's case can be explained and understood so simply, that it is only a matter of time before we see justice. If only we lived in a country that was just and fair. People think we have moved on in terms of justice, and that our techniques of proving guilt or innocence are so advanced that mistakes rarely happen. However, most of us here already know that's not the case. I watched a programme about the Pendle witches just a few months ago and found myself comparing what happened to the witches of then to the joint enterprise cases of today. It appears the new witch is now the new gang. Joint enterprise trials are as barbaric and draconian as the witch trials of 400 years ago. The laws in our courts in the present day has transgressed back to the 17th century, where science and rationality no longer exists. For those who are not familiar with joint enterprise, this is a common law, not passed by Parliament. Some of these cases exist around a media storm in which MPs and other high-profile individuals declare their revulsion to those charged even before the police have finished an investigation. Many cases are what most sensible people would call manslaughter, committed by one person. All those people maintaining innocence that I am aware of say they are not part of a gang and never were, neither was Jordan. Many of the so-called gang names are given to those charged by the police themselves, and sometimes by newspapers. Many of those charged and convicted are children. Some of those children have disabilities, making what the CPS claim they have done impossible. Like my blind son, who is supposed to have stood and watched. How can a blind child watch? Joint enterprise trials gain convictions based on foresight and hearsay from unreliable witnesses who fear for their own freedom. Some just enjoy the limelight of the media. There is little or no standard of proof in these cases. Even the Met Police say that innocent people do go to prison and that they are just collateral damage, lambs to the slaughter. Pre-trial descriptions are of wolf packs, feral children and scum, by which they mean human beings, people who are innocent until proven guilty. Our MPs instill the public with the fear of the young, the fear of the gang that may not even exist, the witches coven that definitely did not exist. This fear leads to a hate mentality in the public, who so happen to be the jury, and that is what leads to miscarriages of justice. As the burden of proof is so low in a joint enterprise trial, people are serving life sentences because of a law that can criminalise on account of possible thought or foresight alone, on being somehow associated to the actual perpetrator. The perpetrator can be your friend, your husband, or someone you recently met. The crime can be committed while you are asleep in bed, in the bath, at the hospital, or even in another part of town. The courts know who committed the crime, but they say that others who are associated with them, even via a telephone call earlier in the day, must have known what they could do or what they could have been capable of doing, even if they themselves, the perpetrator, did not know. Even when what happened was spontaneous and never planned. Does all of this sound outrageous and impossible in the 21st century? Well, it's not, it's happening. So where is the common sense? Why is there no action against this from the public? Well, the answer to that could be that because they know nothing about it. The public do not understand what joint enterprise is, or that it is being misapplied in cases that are simply not joint enterprise cases. So what do we do? Stand by and ignore it, or do we pretend it isn't really happening? After all, we have moved on since the 17th century, or have we? As in the 17th century with the witch trials, joint enterprise trials are a complete entertainment package. The press, the open trials, let's go peek at the witches, or in the present day, let's go peek at the scum, and the documentaries that follow, and how many of those do we get over and over and over again? Everyone is willing to believe a nasty story, even if it isn't true. Are you one of the reasons why this law continues? Because like many others, you like to be entertained. My son told me a few months ago that he used to like watching these kinds of programs, and now he's in them.